Hello everyone, welcome to Paradise here in South Florida. It's a beautiful day. If it's a little hot, we're going to continue with our series. We're in week 3 of our series of the history of Christianity, and today we'll begin talking about Imperial Christianity and the conversion of Constantine and some of the implications that had for transformations of Christianity into an imperial religion. So we're using Alistair McGrath's book, written in 2013. We're still in chapter 1, the Imperial Religion, pages 37 through 49. So let's go ahead and get started. So here's our outline. We'll cover the Imperial Religion, and that will include the conversion of Constantine, the Roman persecution of Christianity, the first Christian emperor, the Christianization of the empire. Sorry, my laptop came unplugged. The first Christian emperor, the Christianization of the Roman Empire, the Imperialization of Christianity, Augustine's book, The Two Cities, and the decline of the Western Empire, and the New Rome and Byzantium in the East. So although Christianity was born into a culture in which there's little sympathy for its ideas or values among the Romans, that is, the new faith spread rapidly in both the western and eastern regions of the Roman Empire. This rise in influence can be thought of as a bottom-up development, or grassroots growth, which took place without any imperial intervention or support or the use of violence or force by the early Christians. Even in the New Testament, there are clear signs of an awareness of antagonism on the part of Roman authorities towards Christianity. The Roman historian Tacitus, who ruled from 56 to 117, provides some evidence of this popular resentment in the aftermath of the Great Fire of Rome, when he spoke of Christians as a class hated for their abominations. The revelation of St. John is widely regarded as reflecting the active hostility of toward Christian groups in the late 1st century. There was cultural suspicion towards Christianity, which was aroused for a number of reasons. Christians refused to take part in the games and other public ceremonies because of their quasi-religious nature. This led to Christians being seen as hostile to their fellow citizens. They were also widely regarded as atheists on account of their refusal to acknowledge the official state religion, regarding their loyalty to God as preventing them from swearing allegiance to any other deities or figures such as the emperor. I think my cat's going to help me with this lesson. Do you want to say hi? You want to say hi, Smoke? No? You want to stay out of the picture? Okay. He turned on the TV screen. I can't believe he did that. Cannibals, orgy, and incest. Many popular criticisms of the early Christians arose from ignorance and a misunderstanding of their practices. The Eucharist, for example, was widely misunderstood to involve cannibalism, incest, child murder, and the love feast was interpreted as orgies because it was secret. In part, these rumors gained credence because of the secrecy of early Christian meetings. Nobody really knew what was happening, and in the absence of hard information, defamatory rumors abounded. In the absence of any official policy towards the Christianity, is suggested by a letter written by Pliny the Younger, the governor of the province of Bithynia, around the year 112, to the Emperor Trajan. Pliny asked for guidance on how to deal with Christians. The rise of Christianity in the region was causing some resentment, for example, from traders who specialized in votive offerings at the temples. Pliny needed a ruling on whether Christianity itself was illegal or whether it was certain actions which were associated with or arose from Christianity that merited prosecution. There is no doubt that individual Christians and Christian groups were subjected to persecution at various points in the first 3 centuries. These, however, were often sporadic rather than systematic, and they were local rather than global. There were also indications that popular demands for the repression of Christianity were resisted by the imperial authorities at various points. One such persecution, however, merits closer attention, the Decian Persecution in the middle of the 3rd century. During his brief reign, the Emperor Decius ordered a general reversion to the religion of classic Roman age, believing that this would safeguard the future of the empire. Decius's views were shaped by the fact that his reign marked the millennium of the existence of the city of Rome, whose founding was traditionally dated to 752 BC. Every inhabitant of the empire was required to offer a sacrifice to the gods and receive a certificate of compliance from the local magistrate. The Diocletian persecution came a little bit later, and it was a little more severe. It came about in 303 during the reign of the Emperor Diocletian. An edict was issued ordering the destruction of all Christian places of worship, the surrender and destruction of all their books, and the cessation of all acts of Christian worship. Christian civil servants were to lose all privileges or rank or status and be reduced to the status of slaves. Prominent Christians were forced to offer sacrifice according to traditional Roman practices. Diocletian forced both his own wife and daughter, who were known to be Christians, to comply with this order. The persecution continued under successive emperors. In 311, Galerius ordered the cessation of the persecution. Excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. It had been a failure and had merely hardened Christians in their resolve to resist the reimposition of classical Roman pagan religion. The edict explicitly identified Christianity as a religion and offered it the full protection of the law. The conversion of the Emperor Constantine changed this irreversibly and brought about a complete change in the situation of Christianity throughout the Roman Empire. So just to be clear, as of 311, Christianity is now legal. It's a legal religion with the same rights of any other religion. So there's freedom of religion in 311. Flavius Valerius Aurelius Constantinus Augustus, better known simply as Constantine, became the emperor during a complex and difficult period in Roman imperial history, regarded by historians as the transition between classical antiquity and late antiquity. A series of crises in the late 3rd century emerged, came close to bringing down the Roman Empire through the threat of invasion, a damaging civil war, and outbreaks of the plague, and serious economic depression. And there's a statue, or the picture of a statue of Constantine, the founder of what I will call Constantinian Christianity. The conversion of Constantine either happened just before or just after his decisive victory at the Milvian Bridge, north of Rome, on October 28th, 312, after which he was proclaimed emperor. What is not clear is precisely why or when this conversion took place. Constantine reported seeing a heavenly vision ordering him to place the sign of the cross on his soldiers' shields. In this sign you shall conquer. In hoc signo vinces. The first change in imperial attitudes towards Christianity took place in 313 with the Edict of Milan, proclaiming the freedom of religion in both the western and eastern parts of the Roman Empire. This did not give Christianity any privileges. Nevertheless, it opened the way to it, playing a significant role in Roman society, allowing Christians to emerge from the shadows, come out of the closet and the margins and assume major social roles. In the years that follow, Rome gradually became Christianized. And there's another statue, a rendering of Constantine the Great. An important turning point took place in 321 when Constantine decreed that Christians and non-Christians alike should worship on the day of the sun. While this clearly reflected the Christian practice of meeting and worshiping on Sunday, it could also be presented as a reaffirmation of the sun cult favored by the earlier emperors such as Aurelian. The Roman mints continued for some time to produce coins showing figures of traditional Roman deities, reassuring the population that the traditional Roman paganism was still being taken seriously. Constantine proved to be an able diplomat, moving Rome towards Christianity while publicly retaining traditional religious symbols. So the conversion of Constantine and his final victory over Licinius in 324 removed any remaining barriers to Christianity, openly practicing their faith throughout the Roman Empire. Christianity was given the same legal protection as that offered to other religions, and Christians were given freedom to worship as and where they pleased. The most immediate result of this was that Christians felt confident enough to worship in public, no longer needing to meet secretly in private houses. The way was now clear for Christians to construct and own their own purpose-built churches. The Latin term religio means binding together, thus highlighting its role in ensuring the social and political cohesion of Roman society and culture. The Roman authorities were content for individuals to follow their own private religious beliefs, provided these did not come into open conflict with the state religion. Those who openly flouted it were branded atheists. The terms superstition and cult were often used to denigrate religions that were considered to be subversive of traditional Roman values. An official Roman religion, therefore, was about creating civic unity, social coherence, and political solidarity. These obligations and expectations were now increasingly imposed upon Christianity. Having only just emerged from the margins of Roman society, through being recognized as a legitimate religion, Christianity now found itself propelled to the forefront of Roman civic life. It simply did not have time to acclimatize to being a civil or Roman legitimate faith before it became the religion of the imperial establishment. So as a result, it was relatively easy for Constantine to exploit the church as an instrument of imperial policy and impose his imperial ideology upon it, and deprive it of much of the independence which it had previously enjoyed. Christianity did not look very much like a religion before Constantine. Yet Constantine's demand for it to take on the role of an imperial unifying religion led to it assuming some of the religious functions and trappings that had been inherited from classical paganism. Christianity began to change. Some were anxious that its new status would compromise its beliefs and, above all, its values. In my own personal scholarly opinion, this is the beginning of what's called, I just forgot. I just went blank. I'll come back to it. I'll come back to it. I just had a blank moment. So Constantine became drawn into ecclesiastical disputes. The new imperial status of Christianity, the word I was thinking of is Christendom. This was the beginning of Christendom, which I do not think is the same as Christianity, although it's an expression of Christianity, an institutional expression. Christendom. The new imperial status of Christianity meant that its unity and polity were now matters of significance to the state. Up to this point, heresy and orthodoxy had been concepts of importance within the Christian communities alone. They now became imperial political concerns with the important legal implications. If Christianity was to be the religion of Rome, it would have to function as Romans expected it to. This brings us to the Aryan Controversy. A similar issue arose later with the Aryan Controversy, in which the topic under discussion was the divinity of Christ. For Constantine, this was a dangerous debate, in that it threatened the unity of the church and hence the unity of the state. It was inevitable that this theological debate should be politicized. Constantine demanded resolution of the issue for the sake of imperial unity. As the church itself possessed multiple centers of authority in rivalry with one another, that would include Alexandria, Antioch, Jerusalem, Constantinople, and Rome, it seemed to Constantine that it was unable to achieve such a resolution. Constantine's method of conflict resolution was without precedence in post-biblical Christianity. Constantine summoned all the bishops of the church to a council in Nicaea, in Bithynia. Now it's Iznik in modern Turkey. This was in May of 325. The fact that the emperor had summoned the council made it quite clear that ultimate authority lay with the emperor within imperial Christianity. This was reinforced by Constantine's decision to model the proceedings of the council on those of the Roman Senate. The structures of the church were subtly being aligned with those of the state. So this brings us to the decline of the Western Empire. In the end, the Roman Empire continued to prosper and even expand in the East for 1,000 years, for reasons we shall explore presently. In the West, however, the Roman imperial power was widely recognized to be in terminal decline. Historians are not really in agreement on a precise date for the fall of the Western Empire, nor on one single cause. For our purposes, we suggest that this could be seen as September 4th, 476, when Romulus Augustus, the last Western emperor, was overthrown by the German military ruler Odoacer, who was declared the king of Italy. Why did the empire fail or fall? In a book called The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, oddly enough, the British historian Edward Gibbon identified the cause of Rome's collapse as a loss of any sense of civic virtue among the Roman ruling class. Others identify other single causes, such as civil wars, as sapping the strength of the army, or the military discipline, and loyalty being eroded through the increasing use of mercenaries. Others suggest that the fall of Rome is better seen as an extended and complex process with numerous landmarks along the way, having multiple rather than single causes. But the shockwaves of this event were felt especially in Roman North Africa, where Augustine, bishop of the city of Hippo Regius, had established a reputation as one of the greatest Christian thinkers. After sacking Rome, Alaric led his armies south with the intention of occupying Sicily and North Africa. However, his fleet was destroyed during a storm while crossing the Mediterranean. Refugees from Rome and southern Italy began flooding into North Africa, bringing with them the burning question of the moment: why? Augustine could not fail to appreciate the declining morale. He began to write his massive work, The City of God, in 412, one of the truly great classics of the ancient world. It took him 15 years to complete the book. His concern was first to rebut the pagan criticisms of Christianity, and then to reassure Christians who were bewildered by the events taking place around them. Refugees from, I already read that. That's a duplication. So the consequences of the fall of the empire: first, the erosion of Roman political and military power created a vacuum that was never really satisfactorily filled by the successors of the emperors. These rulers tend to see themselves as exercising local rather than international authority. Gradually, the institution of the church began to fill the vacuum of institutional authority and provide the constancy and continuity that the empire's bureaucracy had provided before. Second, the rise of monasteries created centers of learning, local administration, and leadership which were independent of national or international agencies. The monasteries were able to offer continuity during times of uncertainty and turbulence. Boy, I butcher words when I'm tired. So you have the rise of monasteries, you have the rise of centers of learning, and you had leadership, local leadership that was independent of national or international agencies. Latin, the third thing is the Latin continued to be used by the church in its liturgy, preaching, administration, in works of theology and scholarship. So it became the lingua franca for the new Middle Ages. The language of the Roman Empire had a long history of use in political, philosophical, and theological contexts, and therefore it was highly adapted to the needs of the Western Church. One of the significant differences between the Western and Eastern churches, or the Western and Eastern halves of the Roman Empire, is that the Eastern portion of the Roman Empire had used almost exclusively Greek, whereas the Western used Latin. The emergence of Latin as an international language helped hold the Western Church together, enhancing its sense of being a coherent community. As academic communities gradually emerged from the religious context, such as the great monastic cathedral schools, it was inevitable that Latin would emerge as the language of the academy in the Middle Ages. This brings us to the New Rome of the Eastern Empire. Constantine had decided to establish a new imperial city in the east in a town called Byzantium, right where Asia Minor and the northern peninsula of Greece came together. The new Greek-speaking city would be known as Constantinople, obviously named after the emperor. From the outset, Constantine referred to his city as Nova Roma, the New Rome, which would be the capital of the empire. It was consecrated in 330 of the CE, of the Common Era. As Rome declined in power during the latter 4th century, Constantinople's reputation and importance rose. The Eastern Roman Empire was based at Constantinople, and it would outlive the Western Roman Empire by 1,000 years. It did not finally fall until it was conquered by the Ottoman Turks in 1453, 1,000 years later. Christian congregations were established in many of the cities of Asia Minor, which is modern-day Turkey, Macedonia, and Egypt by the end of the 1st century. The theological foundations of this form of Christianity were given shape, especially during the 4th century, by writers such as Basil the Great, Gregory of Nyssa, and Gregory of Nazianzus. By the end of the 4th century, the Eastern Church had come to recognize a pentarchy of holy sees that included Rome, Constantinople, Alexandria, Antioch, and Jerusalem are the five primary cities where they were ruled by patriarchs rather than bishops or archbishops, although the details of what this meant in practice were sometimes sketchy. Spiritual authorities were understood to have distributed across these 5 leading cities, with none having exclusive powers or rights. As only one of these 5 centers was located in the Western Empire, it was inevitable that Rome would emerge as the focus of Latin-speaking Christianity, even when the Western Empire began to disintegrate in the late 5th century. Yet there would be no equivalent of a pope in the Eastern Church. And here's a picture of the great city of Constantinople, surrounded on 3 sides, really, by water, by the Aegean Sea. And that finishes our lecture for today. And on Wednesday, I'll be giving part 2 of this section on orthodoxy and heresy. Thank you very much for your time and attention. It's a pleasure to be with you, and we shall continue next time. Thank you. Bye.